नमस्कार साथीहरु वेलकम अल अफ यु टु माई च्यानल आजको डिस्कसनमा हामी चाहिँ द क्यापिटल बजेटिङ प्रोसेस थ्योरी एन्ड प्र्याक्टिसको बारेमा छलफल गर्नेछौँ र द अथर्स भनिसकेपछि मुखर्जी एन्ड हेन्डरसन्स यो पेपर पब्लिश इन इन्टरफेसेस मार्च अप्रिल 1987 भोल्युम 17 इस्युज नम्बर 2 र पब्लिश बाई इन्फर्म्स। अब नर्मली हामी साथीहरु चाहिँ क्यापिटल बजेटिङ भन्दाखेरि इज अ लङ टर्म क्यापिटल इन्भेस्टमेन्ट डिसिजन्स र as a investors when we park our long term funds in the long term investment alternatives त्यतिखेर हामी चाहिँ क्यापिटल बजेटिङ डिसिजन्सको कुरा गर्छौँ साथीहरु चाहिँ। नाउ आजको यही ब्याकग्राउन्ड सँगै नाउ लेट्स टक अबाउट व्हाट अबाउट द केस अफ कि हामीले फर्स्ट अफ अल अब क्यापिटल बजेटिङ प्र्याक्टिसेस भन्ने बित्तिकै एज स्टेटेड बाई मुखर्जी एन्ड हेन्डरसन्स कि द क्यापिटल बजेटिङ प्र्याक्टिसेस डिफर फ्रम वाट the relevant theory prescribed. That means theory and practices भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ we could find the gap. Okay. अब हामी चाहिँ अब features of capital budgeting भन्दाखेरि अब जस्तो कि पहिला चाहिँ अब we focus on the cash flow, त्यस्तै strategic importance छ, त्यस्तै incorporate the key financial concept, helps prioritize investment. अब त्यस्तै हामी reversibility of decision भन्छौँ, त्यस्तै risk and uncertainty, त्यस्तै large capital outlay, त्यस्तै long term focus. As I discussed earlier कि जस्तो risk and uncertainty भनिसकेपछि risk भनिसकेपछि the risk could be quantified, जसमा हामीले probable evident लाई हामीले क्वान्टिफाई गर्न सक्छौँ, but while concerning uncertainty which cannot be quantified, जस्तो large capital outlay अब हामीले लङ टर्म इन्भेस्टमेन्ट गर्दाखेरि साथीहरु चाहिँ वी निड लङ टर्म क्यापिटल चाहिन्छ या फन्ड चाहिन्छ। यो आउटले भन्ने बित्तिकै हामी चाहिँ अब आइ एम टकिङ अबाउट द्याट्स नेट क्याश आउटले। ओके, अब लङ टर्म फोकस अब क्यापिटल बजेटिङ भन्ने बित्तिकै इज नट अबाउट द सर्ट टर्म इन्भेस्टमेन्ट डिसिजन लाइक वर्किङ क्यापिटल म्यानेजमेन्ट डिसिजन्स। यो लङ टर्म फोकस हुन्छ। द्याट मिन्स वेन वी इन्भेस्ट इन द लङ टर्म इन्भेस्टमेन्ट्स अल्टरनेटिभ्स यसको मेच्युरिटी पिरियड बियोन्ड द 1 year हुन्छ। ओके, अब definitely the capital busting would have a strategic importance भन्न सक्छौँ and we use the importance key financial concept र normally हामी के गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ भने based on our investment fund available हामीले prioritize based लगानी गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। र capital busting process को कुरा गर्दाखेरि normally when we look after the जुन मैले सोर्स यहाँ मेन्सन गरेको छ साथीहरु चाहिँ just to you, it's a wonderful site, you can say that. अब capital budgeting process मा first of all हामीले त in identifying investment opportunities को कुरा गर्छौं। त्यस्तै अब we need to explore the overall investment environment, त्यसपछि अब evaluating the feasibility and the cash flow projection गर्न सक्नु पर्यो। फेरि थर्ड भनेको चाहिँ estimating the cost and returns, cost benefit analysis। त्यस्तै at the same time हामीले चाहिँ applying the capital budgeting methods, choosing the best investment option and accordingly हामी के गर्छौं भने once we choose it and last one is that implementation and the monitoring पनि गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। Okay, now talking about the 4 stage model 2 capital budgeting as cited by even the Mukherjee and Henderson's which applied this literature, you can find it। Okay, first of all as per this paper also कि हामीले identification of an investment हुनु सक्नु पर्यो based on the understanding the overall investment environment, त्यस्तै development of an initial idea into a specific proposal। तपाईको idea based investment हुन सक्नु पर्यो। at first हामीले once we identify an investment त्यसपछि हामीले तपाईको initial idea of investment के छ त proposal को त्यो चाहिन्छ र accordingly हामी चाहिँ by using the capital budgeting techniques we could select the best project। okay, capital project र त्यसपछि लास्ट भनेको इज द कन्ट्रोल इन्क्लुडिङ पोस्ट अडिट टु एसेस द फोरकास्ट एक्युरेसी भन्छौँ हामी। ओके, त्यो भनेको वी हेभ टु रिभिजिट आवर प्रिभियस डिसिजन भनौँ। त्यो डिसिजन भनेको राइट छ भने इट्स फाइन, राइट छैन भने स्टिल वी हेभ टु मोनिटर एन्ड कन्ट्रोल इट। ओके, अब जाउँ हामी साथीहरु चाहिँ व्हाट अबाउट द केस अफ कि अब as discussed by the Mukherjee and Henderson in 1987 capital budgeting process theory and practice. दिस इज द यो पेपरको सबभन्दा स्ट्रेन्थ पक्षै भनेको यो हो साथीहरू चाहिँ हामीले अब जस्तो भन्दा वी अब आइडेन्टिफिकेसन फेज डेभलपमेन्ट त्यस्तै सेलेक्सन एन्ड द कन्ट्रोल दिस इज अल अबाउट द क्यापिटल बजेटिङ प्रोसेसको चाहिँ इज अल अबाउट लिटरेचर अर्गनाइजेसन भन्न सक्छौँ जस्तो सर्वे कुन कुन इयरमा छ and what about the case of you can see the identification is that कि जस्तोको sources process timing त्यस्तै अब डेभलपमेन्टमा अब स्क्रिनिङ लेभल भन्छौँ त्यस्तै स्क्रिनिङ प्रोसेस बजेटिङ रिस्पोन्सिबिलिटी त्यस्तै क्यास फ्लो एस्टिमेसन्स र त्यस्तै सेलेक्सनको कुरा गर्दाखेरि प्रोजेक्ट क्लासिफिकेसन त्यसै अब रिस्पोन्सिबल पर्सनलको कुरा गर्छौँ हु इज रिस्पोन्सिबल फर क्यापिटल बजेटिङ डिसिजन्स त्यस्तै टेक्निक्स युज फर long term investment decisions, the risk assessment, this the capital rationing when we have a budget constraint, how we take the long term investment decision, this the origin of rationing part, analysis of rationing, this the cost of capital, cost of raising the long term debt and the long term equity, this the approved authority को कुरा गर्छौँ त्यस्तै अब that's control is that post audit त्यस्तै audit process performance measures and त्यस्तै performance incentive को कुरा गर्छौँ this is all about the authors different publications okay so यसलाई हामी भन्न सक्छौँ that is the table 1 भनेको तपाईको chronological listing of the capital budgeting surveys classified by stage okay so this is the wonderful way of recording that's a literature भन्न सक्छौँ now what about the case of यो पेपरको चाहिँ अब मेन पार्ट भन्ने बित्तिकै हामी अब जुन यो पेपरमा हाइलाइट गरिएको पोइन्टहरू भन्न सक्छौँ हामी जस्तो म्यानेजमेन्ट प्राइमरी गोल्स द्याट्स म्याक्सिमाइजिङ द सेयर होल्डर्स वेल्थ जुन कि विच इज द मेन अब्जेक्टिभ अफ फाइनेन्सियल म्यानेजमेन्ट टु द्याट्स त्यस्तै आइडियाज अफ न्यू प्रोजेक्ट्स फर्म्स क्लासिफिकेसन्स एन्ड द थ्योरिटिकल prescription भन्छौँ जस्तो कि अब as we know that friends कि जस्तो it is generally assumed that the management primary goal is to maximize the wealth of the shareholders okay अब त्यस्तै अब firms calculate the net present value or use the cost of capital and how they adjust the risks okay त्यस्तै firms classify the project by types and allow some classifications to be exempt from the financial justification त्यस्तै idea for a new project come from the lower levels in the managerial organization just the idea भनिसकेपछि not about we just ask the questions with the chief executive officer or board of directors of the company sometimes even those who are working at the operating level या भन्न सक्छौँ या lower level they might have a good idea okay अब त्यो भन्ने सिकिसकेपछि नै जो यहाँ मैले भने the same thing it has been repeating here यसलाई हामी हटाउन सक्छौँ एउटा हटाइदिउँ okay now what about the case of कि अब that's just when making the capital budgeting decision is unclear still who is making the capital budgeting decision is unclear as per this paper I'm talking about and what about the case of theoretical prescriptions for the problem just the linear programming is used infrequently okay but now what about the case of capital budgeting technique used भन्दाखेरि just the firms have developed sophisticated discounted cash flow technique which consider the time value of money भन्छौँ okay we could have a more paper you in this area अब discounted cash flow technique भनिसकेपछि still very relevant या standard practice भन्न सक्छौँ जस्तो त्यस्तै internal rate of return is favor discounted technique and while net present value भनेको is the being distance second choice भन्न सक्छौँ अब theoretically भन्दाखेरि अब that's a net present value work better while from the practitioner point of view they prefer the more internal rate of return भन्न सक्छौँ while still most frequently used भन्ने बित्तिकै हामी payback period भन्न सक्छौँ and accounting rate of return payback period भनिसकेपछि how far we could collect our recover our investment भन्न सक्छौँ that's the payback recovery period भन्न सक्छौँ of our investment or similarly accounting rate of return okay we find it and we compare with the cost of capital now concerning net present value भनिसकेपछि is all about we see that cost benefit analysis पनि भन्छौँ this is total present value of the future cash flow minus initial investment net cash outlay so cash flow भनिसकेपछि अब it could be अब like but that means uneven cash flow छ भने this is cash flow into PVIF के percentage and year भन्छौँ present value interest factor but at the same time when we have a series of cash flow equal cash flow छ भने we could use the PVI of A present value interest factor annuity K percentage and year minus initial investment point is that अब एनपीबी पोजिटिभ छ भने वी वुड एक्सेप्ट द प्रोजेक्ट, while negative छ भने we would reject the project. But at the same time, if the projects are mutually exclusive, friends, then we would be selecting the project highest NPV जसको छ त्यो select गर्छ. But at the same time, when the projects are independent, then we would just select the project when NPV positive. Okay. Or next one is that हामी profitability index भन्छौँ. That's the ratio of total present value divided by that's the initial investment. यो भनेको greater than 1 हुनु पर्यो. Now what about the again accounting rate of returns? त्यो भन्ने बित्तिकै हामी average net profit भनिसकेपछि you could find from the income statement average चाहियो फेरि. Okay, 2 year को छ भने we need the average. Okay, then average investment. Now what about the payback period? अब payback period भनिसकेपछि आज explained earlier कि कति वर्ष लाग्छ to recover our investment. So this is the when we have a even cash flow, equal cash flow छ भने net cash outlay divided by annual net cash flow भन्छौँ. While in case of uneven cash flow छ भने in this case we say that minimum year plus investment to recover divided by net cash flow in the next year भन्न सक्छौँ. Okay, now what about the internal rate of return, friends? So internal rate of return निकाल्दाखेरि त हामीले we could use the trial and error approach, which is simply the present value of inflow equals cash inflow equals to present value of investment cost भन्छौँ र we could use the method of interpolations. Okay, IRR निकाल्दाखेरि जस्तो lower rate net present value lower rate त्यस्तै net present divided by net present lower rate minus net present value higher rate into change in rate भन्न सक्छौँ. Now, your source भनेको चाहिँ that means you could find a wonderful concept paper by searching the ACCA yeah study materials. Just so you can see here this picture also. Okay, that's a this is the x-axis is your discount rate and y-axis is the NPV. Okay, now this is internal rate of return. Now this is the equilibrium point where हामी जुन अब भनौँ न यसलाई मैले अब तिमीलाई अझ क्लियर गर्नलाई. So this is the point जहाँ चाहिँ हामी के भन्न सक्छौँ त फ्रेन्ड्स, दिस इज दी internal rate of return where present value of cash inflow equals to present value of investment cost. Okay, internal rate of return भनेको चाहिँ अब भनौँ न यहाँ देखिरहेछ भने this is all about your net present value. Okay, now what about the case of कि अब भनौँ न हामीले अब what about the case of capital rationing भन्छौँ जसलाई हामीले capital limitation भन्छौँ. Okay, अब that means all about capital rationing या budget constraint या hurdle rate. अब capital rationing भनिसकेपछि practically we are not able to accept the whole project भन्छौँ साथीहरु चाहिँ because of limitation of the funds or you can say the limitation of the capital which is known as the capital rationing. Okay, so you could find a wonderful explanation by the even the just to Gitman or the others too. That's a limit placed on borrowing by internal management भन्ने बुझ्नु पर्यो. Okay, now what about the case of exactly how firms deal with the rationing is unclear still. Okay, now what about the such applications could be in areas other than the capital rationing such as the just to keep on production scheduling yeah inventory management part. Okay, about capital rationing भन्दाखेरि for example you could say this picture just so is the recourse and the capital allocation भन्छौँ resource and the capital allocation. जस्तो we have a project 1 A B C D. अब हामीले select गर्दाखेरि we would select the such project which would maximize our return at the minimum cost भन्छौँ. Okay, अब अर्को भन्दाखेरि what about the survey suggests that the use of the weighted average cost of capital which is simply the cost of overall cost of debt and equity. Okay, which is called as a hurdle rate. Since we are going to compare this cost of capital with the internal rate of returns. Okay, अब हाम्रो cost of capital body छ as compared to internal rate of return छ भने that means we are not going to accept the project. Okay, now अब theoretically भन्दाखेरि as I explained earlier जस्तो कि that's theoretically coming company can accept independent project having the एउटा positive net present value and next one is that IRR is greater than cost of capital in case of mutually exclusive project. If a project having the highest NPV or IRR, then K will be accepted. So capital rationing limits the amount to be spent on the capital expenditure decision. भनेको पुँजीगत खर्च गर्दाखेरि पनि कस्तो हुन्छ भने when we have a limited capital त्यो भनेको हामीले best option investment alternatives भनौँ या best project मा we have to invest it. Okay, just the first one is that जस्तो कि lack of funds भन्छौँ. नेक्स्ट वान इज द्याट कन्जर्भेटिभ इन्भेस्टमेन्ट पोलिसी. ओके, तपाईँ कन्जर्भेटिभ इन्भेस्टमेन्ट छ भने प्रोबाब्ली यु आर नट गोइङ टु पार्क your money in the long term investment more. Okay, so that is the case. So we are looking for such investment which provide the best option भन्छौँ. Okay, what about the case of this is all about कि यो पेपरको मैले डिस्कस गरेँ साथीहरू चाहिँ, this is all about the capital budgeting process, theory and practice, but still you could review the good books too which help you to conceptualize the overall long-term investment decision, friends. Okay friends, these are the things that I would like to share today. यदि आजको कन्टेन्ट तपाईँलाई मन परेको छ भने प्लिज लाइक पनि गर्नु होला र मेरो च्यानल द्याट इज द फाइनेन्स गुरु पवन कुमार झालाई सब्सक्राइब पनि गरौँ. थ्याङ्क यू all of you for watching this video. Please take care all of you. Thank you.